What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Yakuza Princess. This film was directed by Vicente Amorim. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like any of these videos, awesome, hit that like button, as well as comment below on any video to watch, including this one. So Yakuza Princess apparently is based off a graphic novel called Shiro. Didn't know anything about it until just recently. And it stars Masumi as Akemi, who is a young woman who literally has been on the run from her past. She has no idea who she really is. She's been, with her grandfather who's recently been killed. And she also has learned the art of katana sword fighting. So that becomes really important as the movie moves along. Well, we have another character who's played by Rhys Meyers, who is this kind of amnesiac individual who has a katana that is very important to possibly Akemi's story that may involve the Yakuza. Now, on the other side with the Yakuza, we have a character named Takashi, who basically is a subordinate for the main leader of the Yakuza. He has some stuff that he learns about, and he becomes important to Akemi's story and how that kind of plays out, which I don't want to give out because it would kind of ruin the story. And so with that said, Akemi and Rhys Meyers' character go on a quest to figure out not only who she is, how she's related to the Yakuza, but also on top of that, kind of learn their history and see if, Rhys Meyers' character can kind of relearn who he is and why he has amnesia and so on and so forth. And so kind of with that said, kind of, leaving into the material itself, this was a story I knew nothing about. I liked the trailer for it, which I saw right before I received the screener from Magnolia Pictures. Thank you so much for that. And it was a movie that I had no idea, once again, that was based off a graphic novel. Unlike something like Road to Perdition, when I learn about stuff like this, it makes me intrigued to want to go back and read the source material to see how close and how uniquely it fits into what, the directors and writers were going for. So with that said, I like when they do that, especially on material that I've never heard of before, so it gives me an opportunity to go back. But it's also a movie that has the unique kind of concept of not only not being set in Tokyo or Japan or any of the prefixes, but it's set in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Now, that's really intriguing because a lot of this film doesn't look like it's in Sao Paulo, Brazil. It looks like it's set in Japan of some sort, with the neon lights and like the building shapes and so on and so forth. But it's a movie that, also allows the different cultures between the Japanese culture and the Yakuza, as well as the Sao Paulo, Brazil, culture itself, to kind of mishmash with one another. So you still see people that are Brazilian, but most of the characters in this movie are Japanese, outside of Rhys Meyers, who's of course British. And so here's to where we get to whether this movie is worth it or not when it comes to renting it, because I think it'll be a rental when it comes out on Friday. This movie, you're wondering, is it worth watching? Is it worth paying for? Is it worth even attempting to kind of get into the series? And I'll be fairly honest, I am very much a mixed bag on this movie. Now, when I say that, I mean this movie has a lot of potential. It has a lot of interesting characters. It has some really badass action fights and sequences. There's some really good sword play and so on and so forth. But when you get into a movie like this, you have to have character development. You have to have story that works. And those characters have to play out the story, have to have the story make sense. And outside of the surface level stuff, where we learn about some of Akemi's past, we learn about Takashi and what he learns about with the Yakuza, there's not much else really there. Some of the places they visit don't really have much to go with it. They're kind of character turns, or the twist and turn plots that happen in this movie are not really that interesting or even well written or well developed. I thought Akemi was okay when it comes to her character development, but once again, she just feels like a character that they have that moves the story forward but doesn't give you a lot of oomph to that story. And on top of that, we have Rhys Meyers in this movie, who has a really interesting kind of opening to his story, but then he kind of just completely disappears. He's not really much of an entity in this movie, and he's played for, a concept, an idea that involves a sword that is really important to the Yakuza and Akemi. And I don't feel like Rhys Meyers was given anything to do in this movie, so it really feels like haphazardly done, very poorly written, and he feels like a blank slate just because he has amnesia. That's automatically a forgiven point where we go, no, that doesn't really give you a chance to forgive the fact that he just doesn't have any substance to him. And I thought Takashi and his character arc and his story was also quite interesting. But once again, like Akemi, it's just surface level stuff. There's no actual true depth. There's no actual true material. And then when the story concludes and it's going, oh, we're just going to leave the rest for a sequel, you can't do that. You got to have a story that works. That's why, stories like The Matrix or Pirates of the Caribbean or any of these movies that knew they weren't they didn't have any idea that they were going to have a sequel. They have a story and they have a conclusion, and therefore if it does successfully, they'll have the sequels. Here you're just setting up for the next sequel, and that just completely doesn't work. And luckily it worked for John Wick, but it just doesn't work here, and that's just a bothersome fact. That means basically you took your story, you cut a lot of interesting material out just so you could put it into the second part, and you left nothing on the table to kind of make me interested to want to continue this franchise. So like I said, it was a really fun movie to watch. It had some great action set pieces. That swordplay is fantastic. They really knew what to do with themselves. The world itself, the costuming, the violence, the gore was all top notch. It's just there was no story. But in conclusion, that's my take on this film. Like I said, it has some really entertaining moments, some really cool action moments, especially with the swordplay. But when it comes into the story elements itself, it just completely falls flat. And then it's trying to lead into a sequel, which I always say, make your first movie as good as you can make it. Worry about the sequel later if this film becomes successful. Otherwise, you're just going to have a poorly written movie, and that's exactly what happened here. So, but with that said, that'll be my take on Yakuza Princess. Thank you so much for watching. In the comments below, what is your overall take on this movie if you watch it? Have you heard of the graphic novel, which is called Shiro, before? And are you looking forward to this movie? All that good stuff. Otherwise, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like any of the videos, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.